Hello friends, how's it going? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, host Jan. How you doing, friends? Good, I hope. I really do hope that. Today I wanted to talk to you about midfield footballers. Chelsea's midfield. More specifically, Chelsea's young, generally academy-fueled prospects. And I'm going to talk about four players, because these four players generally haven't been, maybe apart from one, in Thomas Tuchel's plans, essentially. I want to talk about Ethan Ampadu, Conor Gallagher, Billy Gilmour, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Of course, we've heard Thomas Tuchel say positive things about all these players, including perhaps maybe not Ethan Ampadu, and of course is currently utilising Ruben Loftus-Cheek. But I say these aren't the players that have been in his immediate plans because, of course, he's turning to these sort of elite senior players that have served him well, certainly up until recently, in the form of course, N'Golo Kante, Mateo Kovacic, and Jorginho. And in the summer, we brought in Saul Niguez, who is, of course, a sort of renowned elite European midfielder, who Thomas Tuchel said himself that he's been fighting for many years. So we thought, okay, well, he'll complete the four. Four goes into two, rotation, makes a lot of sense. But Ruben Loftus-Cheek's come in, so we're going to talk about him. Ethan Ampadu was hailed as a special talent, probably slightly predating Billy Gilmour as well, who we'll talk about, and Conor Gallagher, who is currently lighting up the Premier League. Four players on top of these three already elite players, and that's discounting Saul Niguez, who we can all probably safely assume at this point he won't be, his loan won't be made permanent, or we can speculate that, right? Anyways, I hope you guys are sitting comfortably. I'd urge you guys to subscribe to this channel, Football Therapy, if you're yet to do so, and if you want to show some support, you're welcome to drop a like. And I do want to urge people to go follow my Twitch, because I'm streaming on there every single darn day, video games, and it's really interactive, fun, personable. I feel like I'm connecting with this small community that I'm building on Twitch. Jan's Yard is the channel name. Click the link in the description to go follow, and it will let you know when I'm live if it's on the app, or I'll tweet or whatever. Alright, so let's talk about this. And yes, I'm sure you probably already noticed this video is a little bit more casual commentary, kind of even, dare I say, podcast style. Because a lot of people have been calling for that, and lately I've been spending a lot of time editing, doing edit-heavy videos, and I don't think people necessarily care too much about that. They just want to hear my opinion on stuff, which is nice, and I appreciate that. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Ruben Loftus-Cheek first. And if you follow me as a content creator, or you have been following me for these last few years, you'll know that I am a RLC super fan. What a sensational footballer this guy is. Totally unique. And, he was magnificent in the Maurizio Sarri team before he suffered that horrible Achilles injury in what seemed like a needless game. I mean, it was for a good cause, for a charity, but we didn't need to play all the first teamers on that terrible pitch, but I digress. He was amazing under Maurizio Sarri, being a unique sort of difference maker, match winner, like Eden Hazard, of course, playing and combining with Eden Hazard on that sort of left side of the pitch. He was a left-sided number 8. He was linking up with Hazard as the left winger. They had great chemistry, actually. Both could dribble well, both could score well, both could wriggle between the lines. And interestingly, he's been reborn differently under Thomas Tuchel. He's playing as this sort of lone CDM, deeper than the sort of double sixes that Thomas Tuchel is always talking about. But he has a unique role in. He's allowed to be a box-to-box midfielder, but not in one of these wider channels like as a number 8, has us in the middle, which is kind of peculiar, I think. But it seems to work because opposition players don't know what to do with him. He seems good at being strong, holding up the ball in front of defence and releasing it. He can pass, of course, but more impressively, more notably, more importantly for Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea in terms of what they've been enduring negatively, he can progress the ball through the press by keeping it. He's not frantically looking for a pass, and yes, of course, Jorginho is one of the best in the world at that, but Chelsea was suffering and not being able to play out of the press in certain games. Certainly, that Man City game at home, we got pretty humbled in terms of opposition pressure, and it looks like Chelsea were kind of screwed and, didn't have an answer You bring in Ruben Loftus-Cheek to the team, he starts dribbling through the lines, magnificent, ball carrying, and he's strong as well. I forget that player that ran into him the other day. Was it? I can't remember if it was. Was it against Southampton? Anyway, someone absolutely ran into a wall when they hit Ruben. He didn't even flinch. He's a big, tough guy. Yeah, he's got delicate feet. Wonderful player. I think, provided he can stay fit, and I touch wood as I say that, Thomas Tuchel will look to this guy more and more and more. I think you'll see him as a really important asset, and like I said at the top of the video, a difference maker. So he sort of fits in. He jumps above Saul Niguez at the moment, who does... I don't want to write him off completely, because he's, of course, a talented player. Tuchel has wanted him for a while, and maybe he'll make his way back into more game time. But at the moment in English football, in terms of combining with the players that we've got and knowing what to do, Ruben Loftus-Cheek looks like the fourth choice midfielder for going into two slots. Well, to be honest, I think so far he's played in a three-man midfield, so he's been the extra man progressing the ball. So maybe he'll keep playing like that. Maybe he'll turn to him more as a double six. We'll have to see. But regardless, he once said he's a bit like Michael Ballack, that he likes his qualities, and he's known Ruben Loftus-Cheek since his academy days, which I found really interesting to hear from the German coach. We can assume Ruben Loftus-Cheek, provided no injuries come in, he'll be in the future plans of Thomas Tuchel. So let's move on. Let's move on to another player who has played in a pre-season with Thomas Tuchel, and he had loads of positive reviews, and apparently actually was offered the chance to stay in the squad as a rotational player. And by the way, I'm not including Barkley in today's video, not because I don't think he's a good player. I think he's always offered qualities to the managers dipping in, whether it's, Conte, for a little tiny bit, obviously 6 months, Maurizio Sarri, Frank Lampard, or indeed Tuchel. He looks like he has these moments of quality, but I just don't think you can trust Barkley long term, and perhaps he's not as young as some of the other lads, so I'm not including him. But Conor Gallagher was excellent in pre-season for Thomas Tuchel, really, really impressed. Of course, he had impressive loan spells, Charlton, and was it Swansea, I think it was? Was it Swansea? I think it was Gurhey was there. Anyway, I know he was impressing. West Brom. Anyway, whatever. He had loan spells. Conor Gallagher, very, very impressive indeed. Seems like an all-rounder. He's like a number 10 who you feel like you'll feel safe playing him deeper because he's tenacious, he'll press, he'll tackle, he'll try and recover the ball, but of course he likes to score goals, he likes to assist, he likes to try and switch the ball. Seems like an all-rounder, but a midfielder that makes things happen offensively, but can do that from deep as well, whether it's turning over possession deep and looking for the pass. He's not like a CDM or like a destroyer. He's very much, like I said, like a number 10 who's capable to be moved deeper. Or, you could play him as even a second striker, probably. And he's got fantastic hair. Conor Gallagher, I think, has already proven his capacity to play in the Premier League and play against high-end Premier League opposition well. Of course, he's probably... has he been Crystal Palace's best player? He's been the shining light in their midfield for Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace. Chelsea have rated him very, very highly for a long time, since the academy. The loan spells, he looked really, really promising. And he just looks like he's destined for this Chelsea team. But, ladies and gentlemen, it's starting to get a little bit cramped in there. Let's not forget, okay, so N'Golo Kante is 30 years old, but, we're not going to kick out Kante. He's shown he can still be that sort of Galactico player, the best player at what he does in world football. He won't be pushed out so quickly. I think he'll probably get a contract extension as well. Jorginho's just won UEFA Men's Player of the Year. And, Tuchel recognises what he's done for him. And Kovacic started the season on fire. We know what he's good at. He's good at dribbling. He's good at playing at the press, putting his foot on the ball. And, generally, to be honest, like there's moments where you think Kovacic isn't having a great game, but then you bring him off and something's changed in the Chelsea team and they suddenly look like they just can't deal. Do you know what I mean? That's happened a few times. So Kovacic, obviously, if he can make more passes to Lukaku, if he can score goals, and he's already scored a goal this season, he could be like a magnificent... Thing is with Kovacic as well, He's like 26 or something. He's young. He's 26, 27 possibly. He's not like Jorginho who's 29, 30 or Kante who's 30, 31. He's a little bit younger in his prime. But these guys aren't like geriatrics ready to be put out to pasture. That's important. So when you put in Ruben Loftus-Cheek and you think of the future of Conor Gallagher, you're thinking, okay, right, we've got a lot of midfielders here, guys. We've got a lot of midfielders, but Ruben Loftus-Cheek looks like he's ready now. Conor Gallagher looks like he's ready to play in the Premier League now, perhaps not quite ready to slot into this Chelsea team. Invaluable experience at Crystal Palace, but the future is certainly bright for Conor Gallagher, and you'd have to say at Chelsea. So let's move on and talk about Billy Gilmour. Now, Billy Gilmour, Billy Esther, looked incredible, okay? He's got that insane record of like every debut he's done, he's won man of the match, whether it's for like Scotland, whether in Chelsea, for Chelsea, Premier League, Champions League, and FA Cup debuts were all man of the match. Playing with amazing players around him, certainly in the Chelsea team, you'd imagine some in the opposition as well. Roy Keane, people like Roy Keane adores Billy Gilmour. He doesn't put that much, praise on players. And he looked like an insane player. That debut against Liverpool when he put Fabinho on his arse. And then, he's controlled the midfield when we beat Ancelotti's Everton 4-0. Which, by the way, at the time, they were a good side. They weren't losing. So for us to absolutely slap him about like that, difference maker in the Scotland midfield. Looks like if there is one player, for a long time, if there's one player that's going to anchor Chelsea's midfield or, is going to be like a Barcelona-esque midfielder for Chelsea for years and years to come, it's Billy Gilmour. That's what it felt like. He's small, but he's tenacious, and like Frank Lampard said, he makes up in personality. Lampard had so much trust in him to give him those chances as well. He looked like he was the one. Have we done it again in terms of, by the way, we'll talk about this more with Ampadu, have we done this again in terms of sending a really amazing player off on what will be a poor loan? First of all, I get why ultimately he was sent to Norwich to Daniel Farke because he's friends with Thomas Tuchel, and he obviously convinced him he wants to play a similar high press, high octane style of controlling, midfield and, being resolute. Say resolute. They've been so poor, like profoundly poor, Norwich. It's like, why even get promoted? Do you know what I mean? If you're just going to do this again. But, I'm not saying they're not trying. It's just frustrating for a Chelsea fan to see one of their prized gems in the midfield. Now, actually, he's been dropped. You'd say like, oh, he's their best player. Pre-season, we all bought him in fantasy football because he was like 4.5 million, and we thought, oh well, he's a good bench player. He might get some assists, and you'd imagine he'd get minutes, so therefore points if he has to come off the bench in your fantasy football. But it's been dismal. It's obviously we're only 9 games in, so there's a long way to go. But it's frustrating. Yes, you could argue it's character building that he's going to have that experience at Norwich regardless. It's going to be character building. But, he said that to Ethan Ampadu going to Sheffield United, to a relegated team. That was very poor, in my opinion. But this doesn't seem like a good loan. But don't doubt the quality of Billy Gilmour, because if people who remember watching this guy, when he was winning all those man of the matches, like... Not the future now. Jorginho should be shaking in his boots right now because this guy is running games. Not like quietly ticking over in midfield and making the team, is doing well. I'm not saying Jorginho can't run games, by the way. He's a magnificent footballer. But, when he first dropped into the scene, Billy Gilmour, it looked like, oh my word, he can do everything. He's doing slide tackles, he's doing long diagonal passes, he's doing quick releases of the ball. He's the one. And suddenly, he's in danger of, like, perhaps his stock dropping, which is tragic, if you ask me. But I still think Billy Gilmour should be the future of Chelsea's midfield. And I imagine a lot of Chelsea fans, and indeed just general football fans, pundits and analysts, feel the same about Billy Gilmour. But I do worry sometimes. And speaking of worrying, let's move on to the final player I wanted to discuss in today's video. And that is, of course, Ethan Ampadu. Now, I watched Ethan Ampadu... He made his debut, so we bought him from Exeter as like a 16-year-old, so he's kind of like an academy player like the other 3 boys, as in he was playing in the academy for a while, in the development team. And he did play for, I think he did make his debut under Antonio Conte and looked good. I remember watching him under a couple of managers, and he looked very, very, very good. I remember he even played right back under Maurizio Sarri in his 4-3-3 system once. But he played CDM, centre-backs, 2 centre-back system, and a 3 centre-back system. I think that's probably when he played with Conte. I think he played in the David Luiz position in the middle. But he also played midfield, and he also played in the midfield for Sarri, probably as a centre-back too. Certainly he tried him at right back. And he was like, wow, Ethan Ampadu, this guy, he was like putting in clean tackles when he was like 17 on 34-year-olds, people twice his age. And because he was just, like I say, not dirty, clean tackles, because it was so aggressive, they had to come off injured, and he was like going up to them when they're on the floor going, "You right, mate?" This kid was just tenacious. Super strong, he could pass, he was starting in the Wales midfield really, really soon, or the defence, whatever, they'd probably change him around there as well. And it was like, wow, okay, superstar, we're sorted, that's it. Ethan Ampadu's getting an immense amount of praise. And then he went on loan to RB Leipzig to play under Julian Nagelsmann, which I was like, oh my god, incredible loan. Frank Lampard himself, I think it was his first season in charge, he spoke about Ethan Ampadu, like, yeah, amazing player. I would have loved to have worked with him, but this was too good. This looked like an amazing opportunity. RB Leipzig, play attacking football, play young footballers, great young coach in Julian Nagelsmann. And it was, it was an awful loan. It was awful. He didn't play much. He had one sort of high-profile game in the Champions League when they had an injury crisis, and he came into the defence to play against Tottenham. So all eyes were on him, certainly the Premier League eyes, and he played really, really well. Really well. And, Nagelsmann said some positive stuff about him, and he was like, yeah, I want to play for Chelsea afterwards. And it was all great, and it was feel-goods, and it was like, yeah, Ampadu's dismantled Tottenham. Well, certainly put in a defensive masterclass. And he faded away again, and ultimately we sort of brushed it away as a terrible loan. He went to Sheffield United. They were like, oh yeah, notorious, back three system. He can play in a system that probably suits him. Chris Wilder's quite progressive, if not, pragmatic as well. And it just seemed good, and it was terrible again. They just sunk like a stone. They got relegated. Wilder walked away. Awful. He's at Venezia now in Serie A, and they got their first win recently, a 1-0 win against 10-man Fiorentina, which doesn't say much. Lovely kit, by the way. You should go Google their kit, or Ampadu in their kit. He looks great. And it made me think of him, and I thought, yeah, their first win. I mean, again, he's doing it. He's going to his third loan. He went off to Germany, had that experience. Great experience, new culture, new country. Came back to the Premier League. Suffered, had that experience. Now he's going to a different country in Italy. He's really soaking this in. He's saying, look, I'm doing what you tell me. I'm going to different cultures, different leagues. I'm experiencing different everything, So maybe I hope that counts for something, because he was such an incredible player. But I do worry for him. So where does that leave us? We've got, Loftus-Cheek is mid-20s now. He's 25. He's not a kid anymore. And he looks like he's in the midfield now. But then you've got, he's so 4 midfielders, and that's discounting Saul Niguez and Ross Barkley, Conor Gallagher, Billy Gilmour, and Ethan Ampadu to come in, if they can come in, if they can make it. Does Tuchel even stay? We know what Chelsea's like. I wanted to ask you guys, and I wanted to talk about this and, give my thoughts on it, because I really do want to talk about it. And it's been a long video, so you could tell that I wanted to talk about it. But I want you guys to give me your opinions in the comment section. Please do let me know what you think about each player. And, you could talk about our current midfielders as well. How does it fit in? Who goes? Who stays? What happens? So please do that. Comment down below if you've enjoyed my thoughts and takes and pensive nature on this topic. Please do drop a like. And consider subscribing to this YouTube channel, Football Therapy. That would be very nice of you. And one more plug to push you in the direction of my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Jan's Yard. Or just search Jan's Yard on Twitch. I stream every single ruddy day. Guys, thank you for joining me on today's video. Enjoy the football, and I'll see you later.